Welcome to the latest installment of Cooking for Moderately Lazy People. This time we're going to be making spicy garlic lime chicken. First, we're going to start by taking a 1 to 1.5 pound package of chicken tenderloins, cutting them in half, and putting them in a bowl. The rest of the ingredients in this episode are scaled for 1 to 1.5 pounds of chicken. You can use more chicken, but you'll have to scale the ingredients accordingly. The true limiting factor for this recipe is really how large your skillet is. Next, we're going to set up our seasoning mixture. In a small bowl, we're going to include 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt, 1/4 of a teaspoon of black pepper, 1/2 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, 1/8 of a teaspoon of paprika, 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1/8 of a teaspoon of onion powder, 1/4 teaspoon of thyme, and 1/4 teaspoon of parsley. We're then going to whisk the ingredients together until combined. We're then going to grab our bowl of chicken and toss the chicken in the seasoning mixture. We're going to try to get this as evenly coated as possible without spending too much time on it. I am going to add the seasoning mixture in stages to help coat more evenly. We're then going to put our seasoned chicken aside for the moment and put our skillet on the stove. In the skillet, we're going to place 2 tablespoons of butter, 1 tablespoon of olive oil, and then turn the skillet on to medium. At this point, we're just basically melting the butter, and once the butter is melted, we'll toss in our chicken. We're going to let the chicken cook for 6 minutes on the first side. We're going to attempt to layer the chicken as evenly as possible across the bottom of the skillet as we can in order to make sure it all gets cooked evenly. This is why you need a much larger skillet to scale up this recipe. While the chicken is cooking on the first side, we're going to create the garlic lime mixture that the chicken gets its name from. You can really do this at any point in the process prior to needing to add it to the chicken. I just prefer to do it in the first 6-minute period because it gives me something to do. I usually buy 3 limes for this portion, and depending on the size of the limes, I could use anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5. It really just depends on how small or large the limes are the next time you go grocery shopping. If you don't want to mess with fresh limes, you can just use a 1/4 cup of lime juice. Let's go ahead and squeeze a 1/4 cup of juice out of these fresh limes. And you'll see in the video these limes were actually large enough I was able to get a 1/4 cup of juice out of just 1 lime. I'll save half the second lime for later, and I'll refrigerate the other half lime along with the one I didn't use. And now that we have our lime juice, we're going to add it to another small bowl and add 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. We're then going to whisk this until combined. This should wind up with a thick liquid consistency. We don't want it to be a slurry. If it winds up too thick, just add more lime juice. When we're done whisking, we'll set both the mixture and the whisk aside. We're going to want to give the garlic lime mixture a quick once over with the whisk before adding it into the chicken. Once we've reached the 6-minute mark on the first side, we're going to flip the chicken over. We're going to let it cook for 5 minutes on the second side before we move on to the next step. And while it's cooking on the second side, let's talk cost. As always, your mileage may vary depending on the prices in your area. The package of tenderloins runs around $5 a pound, so let's assume $7.50 for a pound and a half. The limes are about $1 for all 3 of them, and we're using about a quarter's worth of butter. I consider the cost of the seasonings negligible because I have to use each container at least a couple of dozen times before they're empty. Not accounting for sides, we're looking at about $9 for the meal, assuming a pound and a half of chicken. Once we've reached about the 4.5-minute mark on the second side, we'll pick up our garlic lime mixture again, give it a quick whisk, and when we hit the 5-minute mark, we'll dump the mixture into the chicken. We had been leaving the chicken sitting for most of this time, but once we dump the garlic lime mixture in, we are going to keep it moving around because we don't want it to stay on one side and possibly burn. We're going to kind of lazily toss the chicken in the mixture for about 4 minutes and then remove it from heat. It will go into a bowl for serving, and this is where we'll bring back that half lime we didn't use earlier. We'll give that lime a good squeeze over our finished chicken. Again, if you don't want to mess with a fresh lime, a couple of spritz of lime juice should work. And there we have it, spicy garlic lime chicken. If you try this and don't think it's spicy enough, feel free to play with the amount of either pepper that you use, especially the cayenne. This entire meal, start to finish, not accounting for sides, takes in about the 20 to 25-minute range start to finish, so it's a great one to throw together after work. As always, the recipe will be in the description. If you like the recipe, or the video, or both, please feel free to like, subscribe, comment on, or share the video. Thanks for watching, and bon appetit!